What's up, metalheads? It's Travis Malley from Crimson Caliber. Welcome to Enigma Media.
What up, headbangers? How you doing? I'm Rob O'Day, and welcome to the Greasiest of all time. Today we're chilling with Ophelia Falling, symphonic metal band out of Vancouver. How you guys doing?
Really good.
Awesome.
Why don't you introduce yourselves and let us know how the band got together?
I'm Chelsea Rose. I'm the vocalist and lyricist slash songwriter. But I will let Mark tell how the band got together because he started it.
Sure. My name is Mark Anthony Richardson, the guitarist and founder of this bit of mayhem. It started back in 2013. I decided I wanted to put together a symphonic metal group. I had been out of the band scene for quite a while, doing a lot of just session playing, and I realized that I had the epiphany that I've been playing guitar for all the wrong reasons. Like, I was doing a lot of session work, playing for musical theater, playing with choirs, and I realized that this is not why I play guitar. I was 13 years old, starting to play guitar. It's like I didn't want to grow up to play Annie Get Your Gun. I didn't want to play in Cats, but this is what I was doing, and I went, no. I had to change this, and so I had to get back into my roots and playing rock and metal, and I fell in love with bands like Nightwish, the European sound, Nightwish with Temptation, Delane, like bands like that, and so yeah, I just called some people up, some friends of mine, got it going, and here we are now. Right? It's a different lineup now than we started. It has improved every time we've had a change. It's been for progression and improvement on every level. But yeah, we did our first show in 2018.
Like 3 years ago to the day tomorrow, I think, was our first show.
Oh yeah, totally.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's wicked. So
yeah.
So over time, how have you, do you do mainly the most of the writing?
Yes. So Chelsea and I will get together to work out a lot of details, but I usually get the format of the song together, the form and like the main riffage and the idea of the song in my home studio, and then I have Chelsea come over, or where we communicate long distance, and we put together the melodies. We fine tweak some things, fine tweak the arrangement a bit. And then we send it to our keyboard player, James Meyer, who used to play with like Strapping Young Lad and Devin Townsend. So he's got a great home studio, and then we go over there, and then we start putting together all the choral stuff, the choir stuff, all the big heavy orchestral arrangements.
Yeah.
And then we bring it to the band, and then like Sylvain Mateus and Chris Pallett, and then we work out the more details, right? What's going on with the bass, like working out drum parts. And a lot of times, like I like to let the guys basically write their own parts, because they're better at what they do than I am at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So I will give an overall direction, like this is kind of what's going on, but most often they'll come up with something way cooler than what I had in mind.
Yeah.
It just makes what I had better, right? They come up with new ideas, or a different kind of fill, or a different kind of sequencing thing. Like it's, so I like to let the band members shine, do their thing, right?
Yeah. And that's I think that's the best part about being in a band, right? Is like you can come up with a concept and it completely changes, but for the better of the creation,
Yeah, we're not really a jam band. We don't get together and sort of jam and create music on the spot. But it's important that everybody gets their signature sound and their signature voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. Your guys' last release, Destroyed in Delight, in 2020. How was that experience recording?
Oh, it was, it took a long time. We had planned on releasing the album in the early part of 2020. But of course, when, COVID happened, plans changed. We weren't able to get together. So we actually split up the recording between quite a few different places. We did the drums at Kick Rocks Records with Rye Somerton. And that was actually with Max. our first drummer. So we actually got him to record the drums like 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And they'd been sitting there waiting to be used. And then we tracked guitars at Mike Slater's. Mike Slater was the engineer who mixed and mastered the whole thing.
Okay.
And bass we did in-house at James's studio. Vocals we split between Jade Weeks and James Meyer. So it was kind of all over the place, which is something that we're going to try and remedy in the future. And we're going to try and get everyone together in one studio, one producer, one place at the same time to create that more cohesive sound. But I think we managed to do a pretty good job considering it was so split up.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique style. Like most symphonic bands you see, they don't have a lot of the elements that you guys have added, which is a cool thing, because I've noticed like you have a lot of unique synthesizers that are added, and that comes from the keyboard, right? And that's a cool thing to see. Like even when I was listening to you guys this morning, my girlfriend was just like, what is this? What band is this? And I'm like, you guys are from Vancouver? Yeah, like I'm interviewing them in like an hour. Like,
nice.
So it's cool to see the diversity that comes out of Vancouver and BC, but like the creativity that you guys have behind it is super unique, because you take on that European symphonic sound kind of, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of where we're trying to go, is to make our way out to Europe, right? We understand that we aren't going to blow up here in Canada, and that's fine. Yeah. So we've got that European kind of sound, and we're hoping to really take off out there.
Yeah, I could definitely see it taking off in Europe, and even Japan loves symphonic metal quite a bit, which is nice. So, I mean, and nowadays you don't really have to worry about getting major labels. Like independent labels from all over is where it's at, right? So I think the more bands just do what they do and not worrying about what appeals to people, you know, kind of like the popularity contest that everyone has to deal with.
Exactly.
I think the independent labels will see that, and that's where we need to go as bands.
Yeah, we knew from the beginning that we weren't going to be huge in Vancouver, right? This is not our target audience. And having said that, we have a lot of people in Vancouver that like us, right? And we're good friends with the scene, and we're in with the metal scene here, and it's warm and fuzzy and nice, and we all love each other. It's great. But this is not where our tribe lives.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, no, and that's understandable, especially because BC's music scene has died over the last 15 years. It's gotten pretty weak. And
it's rough, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was playing here in Vancouver in the 90s, and I remember the Town Pump and the Starfish Room, and like the big rooms, and the independent scene was really strong, and it just seems like we lost our infrastructure. Right? We lost the energy. It's different now.
Yeah, I noticed.
It's vibrant but small.
Yeah,
right?
What it is it's tight what we have, but at the same time, like none of the big bands are coming by anymore. You know what I mean? Like we kind of get overlooked now. Whereas 10 years ago, like I remember watching Slipknot or Deftones open for Slipknot in Vancouver, and like that was a crazy show for me, you know. Or like they used to bring in a lot more bands, I feel, and I think the scene itself, not necessarily the underground scene, but the international scene, the way they look at us in BC, our music scene is kind of dead, which is just sad. We got to bring it back. And I was interviewing Dark Origin the other day, and we were talking about how venues are shutting down constantly in Vancouver, and I don't know,
more so now.
Yeah, right. Especially, and so I kind of like the other day on Facebook, I made a post about how wondering what people thought about an all ages venue sponsored by the government kind of thing. And I was like, you know what? I'm not even gonna ask people. So I just like literally emailed John Horgan. I'm like, all right, this is what we need. Like, let's make a change, right? So I think there's hope within the bands building something back, but I don't think it's just gonna come.
No, it requires some infrastructure, and it requires some people with real vision, long-term vision, especially when it comes to venues, right? Yeah. And adapting, right?
Yeah. That's all it's been for bands, is adaptation for this entire thing. So but that's not just here, that's everywhere, right? So you always want to keep that in mind. It's like it's really easy to think, oh, woe is me, and this is terrible, but the reality is it's everybody everywhere, on all the levels, from the beginning bands to the heavies. It's we are all going through this together, right? Yeah, and that's the thing I always talk about, is it's going to be cool or not cool, but it's going to be interesting to see how many of the bands that we look up to aren't going to be around after this, just because they're not touring, they're not making money for their label, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And how many might go bankrupt, kind of. It's a scary thing, and I think it's also the best opportunity for us as emerging bands.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're already seeing that in the symphonic metal scene. I mean, we're seeing, I mean, whether Nightwish and Delane would have continued on as normal without COVID, or whether this forced break imposed on everybody has made people in the bands think and reevaluate their priorities. You know, with Marco and with Charlotte and everybody, it's like, what are they doing? Are they really happy with what they're doing? You know, because sometimes when you're separated from the grind, you get to see it more clearly, right? More clearly, more honestly. So who knows if those big bands would still be fully functioning without this, you know, imposed break on them.
But it's created a space for us.
Yeah, it certainly does. And you know, people are now looking for replacements, right?
Oh yeah, and I mean, I think I think it's like 4 or 5 of the bands that I've interviewed have just been signed in the past month.
I read that. I saw that.
Yeah, and then we just signed officially this morning. It was announced that our band just got signed with AMG.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And it's like they're looking. There's no holds bar at this point for bands. Like, just send it out there and you'll get heard. Because I think there's it's flooded. Like, even post or pre-COVID was super flooded, but being forced to adapt to a market where we're only selling things online and having to create content to build fans instead of performing has really divided the industry in a way of who's done it for the dream and who's done it for the show.
Exactly. Right.
And that shows, right? So I think labels are seeing that, and as we slowly open up and go back to performing, it's going to be a huge explosion of new bands.
Yeah, we were talking about this very same thing a few weeks ago. I can't remember who was interviewing us for this, but it was this is forcing all the bands to do that really hard grinding work, the behind the scenes work, the no glory work, right? Really in the trenches, and it really separates the weekenders that just want to play and have a few beers and play in front of their friends at their local bar, and the bands that are more serious, that are more focused on putting out content and adapting to the new environment and still trying to strive to succeed. Yeah, and not just giving up and saying, "Oh, I wish I could play down at Pat's Pub again." You know, it's a different kind of band that does that, right? And it's really, as you said, there is a divide, right? There's the 2 different camps of bands now, right?
Yeah, as before, it was just kind of like you had to swim through this fucking lake of bands and try and find which ones were dedicated, because it seemed like everyone was dedicated. But social media you can do a lot on there. You know, you can make a lot of people think what you are is different. Hip hop artists are the prime example of being able to look more important than they are to gain followers. Yeah, you know what I mean? And that is a skill, but at the same time, you gotta, as a label representative, I think you got to be able to look through that, and and I think that's where the real bands will shine, kind of a thing. Yeah. So
for sure. But having said that, self promotion is totally important, right?
Yes, learning how to promote yourself and market yourself is the independence that we've gained through COVID is such a blessing. Like at first it was scary. Like it was like, oh fuck, what do we do? Like I don't know how to market. I've never had to deal with social media, and now I'm like, I don't know. It's just networking, I think, is the best thing between bands.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said that, because it's like that's what we've been thinking. It's like it's really easy to think, oh, 2020, what a waste. But 2020 was one of our most productive years. I mean, we put out a video, we put out an album. You know, our music's in a movie. I mean, we were totally productive, right?
Yeah, and that's dope.
I mean, without actually playing shows.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing, right? Like, no one's played shows, so it's really showed who can make it a business and is worth I always say no one's going to invest in your career if you're not willing to, you know what I mean? So it's showing who's willing to invest all their money, all their time into it. And it's kind of the hard work shows, and it pays in the long run.
For sure.
Hope so.
Yeah. How has COVID affected you guys besides not being able to perform and get together as much?
We did have, I mean, obviously we had a tour planned Canadian tour planned that got canceled, so that was hard. But like Mark said, we've been able to adapt and take care of all the business sides of things. We did get to release a music video that was put on in collaboration with the Culture and Urban Inc., a theater groups in Vancouver.
Oh, cool.
They approached me personally, I'm an actor as well, and asked if I wanted to make a music video, basically. I asked if I could have my band come and do it, and they're like, well, we can't because of COVID protocols. So we put out Way to Go with just me in it. And I mean, it's gotten a great response already. And even though we couldn't get together, we were still able to put out a music video, and get some content out there. But it is hard. Like you said, like you have to find content when you're not able to get together and you're not doing shows. You got to post a stock picture of a private plane and pretend that you're like flying all over the place doing stuff like Bow Wow. So
yeah, no, it's definitely a weird time for us, and it's been fun and it's been stressful. Like I know that having to take over the management for like our band and do all our own marketing and stuff it's stressful. It's a whole day work. Like
it takes so much time.
It does.
Crazy.
And I don't think people understand what we do behind the scenes other than just on stage. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And I think that's why I love what we're slowly creating here, is because it does give bands that option to be like, this is what we deal with. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just fun all the time. It's work. It's hard work. Yeah. Like, I don't know many people who would go work a full-time job, then come home and work the band job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They kick their
Mark
feet up.
Mark takes care of so much of the business side that I have even like no clue what he's doing, but he's always working. He's applying for grants. He's just like,
I don't have a clue. No, I don't have a clue what I'm doing either.
Yeah, it's like me. Just what you think, whatever pops in your mind, like you just go for it, because
well, you just gotta do.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
you just do this stuff, and if you don't know how, you just learn how to do it.
I think a lot of I don't know if you guys know who Gary Vee is, but
Gary Vee.
Yeah, he's like he's a huge entrepreneur, but he does like inspirational business talks and stuff like that. But he's no holds barred. He doesn't bullshit you, kind of a thing. And he's like, most people aren't willing to take the time to work. You know what I mean? Like, most people are scared to hear no.
yeah.
And you need to hear no as many times in your life as possible, because like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Is no. Like, if you send something out to a label and they say no, well, whatever, right? Yeah. So they're realistically, I think people's biggest like barricade is themselves, and just like, we're not at that level yet. You know, it's like, well, you're never going to know you're at that level until you push yourself.
Exactly. In fact, I tell that to my students all the time. I mean, they're like, they're learning to play guitar, and then they're like, I want to really be in a band. And I said, well, we'll do it. And they're like, well, I don't know if I'm good enough yet. It's like, the time is now.
Ever listen to the Sex Pistols?
Right. Right. I mean, the time is simply now. The time is always just now. Do it now. Don't wait.
Right? Yeah, I definitely hate the concept of I'm too old for it too.
Sure.
Like, there's never too old. You know what I mean? Like, I always bring Maynard up from Tool. Like, he was 36 when Tool's first album was picked up.
Wow.
He's not a young guy. Like, he's old. You know, he's like in his 60s, just getting up there. So like, he's been doing it for 30 years. And
well, the metal community is actually really forgiving for age. It's like, the metal community is very much, I think, like the country music community, in that there is a certain respect giving to the aging musicians, right? That you don't find the same thing in, say, pop music, right? Pop music is always for the young. It's always about the young, and at some point you age out of it and you're no longer relevant, and you're the brunt of jokes, right? But I find in metal and in country, there is a respect given to the elders of the scene.
That is very true.
And that's really nice to see, right? I mean, you look at bands like Judas Priest and Sabbath and Maiden, like all these, trendsetters and originators of the scene, held in great high regard. At the same way as you find like Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash were always held in high regard, right?
Yeah, no, and I think that is a very good point, because I always say that metal musicians are the most dedicated fans. Like,
sure,
I don't know any other genre of music where you're like, you know, like, you're not going to make fun of a rapper's fan and they're going to fight you, or make fun of a rapper, you know, like, you make fun of Slayer and some people will fight you. Like, I have friends like that, and I'm like, I always make fun of Slayer just to see what they'll do. So
And they're
I mean,
also the most dedicated to the music. Like you go to a metal show and you just see horns in the air. You don't see phones. People aren't standing there staring at their phones and watching.
Yeah.
There's like barely any pictures and videos of bands because everyone's just enjoying the music.
And no one wants to bring a phone into a pit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a terrible idea.
You do it once.
You do it once and you
it
never do it again. Yeah. No, and it's true because, like, I mean, you won't see people picking up a guy in a wheelchair at a hip hop show. You know what I mean? Like, I love that about metal. It's a family, and it doesn't matter where you're from. Like, you can meet anyone from anywhere, and if they love metal, you can connect. And that's what I love about music in general. The universal language. It's deeper than what it is, and I think that we used to, as a culture, like a global culture, embrace music a lot more. And then now I think it's just become some thing that's in the background. Like, you always hear it on the radio. People don't look for bands. They find a song on a playlist and they're happy with it. They don't listen for full albums.
Yeah.
It's a weird time for bands because now we're forced to adapt to that in a way where we're like, hey, we're not writing full albums as much anymore. We're writing singles. So you have to focus on that. And
it's gone back to that 50s, early 60s type of style of being single based and not the album. Like the idea of putting out like a full album and having a concept album or that kind of stuff is just it's an unnatural thing now, which is too bad because I love it. Right? I mean,
me too.
I don't like the idea of releasing singles. I like albums, right? And I don't like the idea of pressing random and randomizing your playlist. I mean, an album was put in a certain order for a certain reason, right?
Yeah.
And it is a flow to it, there's an art to it, and I could go on for hours about the how much better vinyl is, about having to flip the vinyl thing, the record over, and the ritual involved in looking at the big artwork and taking it out, and the like the whole thing about playing an album on vinyl and how it's set up in 2 acts. The first act, and then you got to get up and you turn it over, and then you start the second act, right?
Well, and that's probably why we're putting out our album on like press CDs, which we've been trying to get out forever, but it's coming now. It's off. It's printing, but we've made sure that it's a really nice like digipack style. Like, you're gonna pull out the booklet. It's got like everything to it. It's fancy. It's nice, so that it's a collector's thing. It's not just here's a CD, like, it's a really nice thing. So you still get that ritual when you open it up, you unfold the whole thing and take a look inside.
That love like that you have. Yeah. My favorite thing was always like, my favorite albums, I was always like, take the booklet out and put it on my wall. Nice, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I take, like, even if I wrecked the booklet, I didn't care. Like, the pictures and the lyrics were like my thing. So I had a room covered in just booklets and paintings and pictures of bands. So like, I miss seeing that, like that whole dedication to music. Like, it's still there. I just think at some point we detached from the youth, like appealing to the youth, and we kind of focused more on, like, as we aged as musicians, we focused more in bars. And like me personally, when I grew up, there was tons of musicians and bands locally that held all ages events all the time. And that's where they made most of their money, was on the youth, because the youth would come buy shirts, buy a CD, and they'd be like religious for every show. So
well, that's where the money is, right? The money's with the 16-year-olds.
Yeah.
Because, right.
Well, and we got to bring them back, because like the music they listen to now is like, what is this? Like, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Anyone with a laptop can make music.
Yeah.
Which is both good and bad, right? It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't like to get too down on like current music, right? Because we've always had bad music and good music.
Yeah.
It's just now that you because of the way that we're all listening to music, you have to actively seek out the good stuff. Right. Well, before it was a healthy balance. You heard good stuff, you heard bad stuff. It was all kind of in one thing. But now it's harder to find good music, even pop music. But it's out there.
Yeah.
It is out there, right? And I always fight against this idea of, as I get older, of poo-pooing the young music. I don't want to be old man yelling at clouds, right? Well, in my day, I know my music, all that stuff. They don't write songs like
the elitist, the metal elitist. Yeah. Yeah, no, change is good. It's needed, right? Or we would be stuck with Elvis still.
Yes, but you have to. Yeah.
And that's like, we need change. I think it's the best part. So I find it funny when people are like, oh, metalcore isn't metal. It's like, what classifies metal? Like, what is the actual definition of metal? I would like to hear. You know what I mean? It's it's not, you can't classify metal because it's an emotion, it's a spirit, it's a feeling. It's not just a genre of music. It's hard to describe.
I tend not to get into categorizing metal that way.
Yeah, I don't like categorizing anything really. I that was the hardest thing about being in a band, is trying to like create the genre that you're supposed to be.
Yeah,
we're just a band, you know what I mean?
We've had a hard time with that too, because we go by symphonic metal, but what does that mean to anyone, right? It means
because you guys have more than just symphonic. Like, you have so many different elements to your music, which is really cool.
We've got rock and classical. There's so many different parts thrown into there, right?
Like the operatic aspect is it's theatrical. Even listening to it, so I can imagine like your guys' live performance is just high energy too, right? So I think that makes bands and fans love your stuff, because it makes you unique, especially being in Vancouver, because most bands from Vancouver are heavy, or we got screaming and stuff, and you guys have these like wide open gorgeous vocals and then these intense fucking melodies, and it's a wicked blend. That's what I think is, which is unique about your music, because like you hear it too, and you've got these fucking epic ass like electronic aspects. And man, it sounds like they literally just like have a DJ in the band almost, you know what I mean? But it's like, and it makes sense that you guys have the keyboardist, which is cool, because you don't see keyboardists as much anymore. You know, like
they're hard to find. You know, they're hard to find. The kind of person that has the skill set of James Meyer is very, very difficult to find now, right? An excellent technical keyboard pianist at the same time has tremendous skills in composition and in writing and sound production, right? I mean, and he can sing, and so he's a real huge benefit for the band, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a total flex too, because it's like, well, guess who we have?
Well, that's true, right? I mean, his background is intense, and you know, anyone who's played with Devin Townsend and strapping is someone you want to have around, right?
Well, I mean, and the fact that you guys have him says a lot too about your ability and creativity skills, that he wants to work with you, you know? So
thank you.
And that's, I think there's a lot of amazing bands coming out of BC. And I think now is our time to shine. Like, I feel like it comes in waves, you know what I mean? Like, there's the LA wave, and then there's the New York wave, and like, it's our time. I'm stoked. I can't wait to see all the bands in BC just like rise, because I think Canada's music is seen as dead. Like, we don't have it. We don't. It's not like the States for metal. It's not like Europe. It's not like the UK. So I think it'll be nice for us to get seen, picked up, and they bring us where we're needed and we're appreciated, kind of a thing. And I mean, all it takes is us just to keep working hard, realistically.
Yep, and to reach down. I mean, it's really important to us as well. The concept of reaching down to bands that are still struggling or trying to make it, right? Because we've had some help from some larger bands that have helped us along the way, and I think it's important that when one band starts to make it, it's good for the entire scene, and just not that one band. But like, if we're doing well, everyone's doing well, and if your band's doing well, we're doing well too. Because the more success you have in a certain region, a certain city, the more eyes are focused on that city to see what else is going on, right? Because that's what happened in Seattle in the grunge scene. That's what happened in LA during the 80s, right? So it's the same kind of thing, right? What is great for one band is great for the whole scene.
Yeah, and I think that we used to have a really tight-knit community too, 10, 15 years ago, where that happened. You know, if one band got picked up, they would be like, yo, you got to check out our friends.
Exactly.
And I think that slowly died, and there was kind of like this it went from friendly competition to genuine competition. You know what I mean? Like
I don't find that now in Vancouver. I've heard that's in other parts of the province. I've heard that, but in Vancouver, we have experienced nothing but
honestly,
camaraderie and a brotherhood, and we're going to help you out, and you guys are great, and we're supporting you by going to your shows, and we're always
so much cross promotion between us all. Everyone loves each other. It's so nice.
And I mean, Jade and everybody down there they're building such a beautiful community. You know what I mean? Like, you have Kaya putting on sick festivals, and like, I mean, everyone down there is so tight knit, and that's why I love Vancouver scene and the bands from there. And I love interviewing them, even even if they're just beginning, you know what I mean? Like, we interviewed a band, Thank You Driver, and they're really cool. Like, I can't wait to see them slowly build their career because they got a really cool style, and it's like hardcore, post-hardcore with like Rage Against the Machine almost. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but
Nice.
it's nice to see the uniqueness of all the bands because there's no band that's alike. Like we're all
No.
different. So I think that we do have that ability to finally get seen because there's going to be eyes on BC because there are a lot of bands getting rise from here. Like Living Machines from Kelowna, they've got a huge following, and like their music is crazy. And I'm pretty sure that they got picked up last year or the year before. And out of Kelowna, there's been like 6 bands. Like you have the Heavy, We Are the City. There's a lot of bands that have made it out of Kelowna and the Okanagan and Vancouver recently. So it's nice to see that we're starting to get that push.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And with the film industry being so big here, it kind of ties in with that. There are eyes here.
Yeah.
People are looking for good music.
And the Okanagan just turned into another huge film hub.
Yeah.
Oh,
They
great.
took over. Yeah, they took over for a lot of Hollywood's films came up the Okanagan in the past year during COVID. And then it's a really cool time for BC. I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure.
If there's anything in the industry you guys could change, what do you think it would be?
Ooh.
That's a great question. I don't know. Elsie, what do you think?
Throw it to me. I guess if there's anything in the industry I could change, it would be the monetization of everything and how bands only make money off of merch sales. Like streaming sales are nothing, right? We get nothing off of that. I mean, even my first SoCan payment, I got like a, that certificate with a $1.27 check on it. Like, yay,
I still have mine.
I think I think it would be I think if I could change anything, it would be how the musicians, the artists themselves make money and being able to support themselves, because the labels can support themselves through the artists, but the artists get nothing these days, and I guess that would be the thing I would change.
Yeah, there's a lot of money being made, but it's not going to the producer of the art.
Yeah.
It's going to the expediter of the art, but it's not going towards the actual producer of the art, and that's a bit of an issue.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's what's good about independence.
Sure.
Being able to do that ourselves now, because we get to pick and choose what we want to work with, versus like taking the first thing that's given to us. Because there's a lot of people out there that are willing to screw you over. There's a lot of fake promoters, a lot of fake labels.
Yeah. The emails we get every day. It's
and
insane.
I think that's another thing people don't realize. Like, we got to filter through so much spam and fake people just trying to rip us off.
Yeah.
Even when you're not big, and it's like people are just hungry for you. And it's, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's a main thing that needs to change. And I think in time it will. I think the more bands that speak up about it, the more that it's heard about people who aren't bands, because not many people know that. Like, they think, oh yeah, they're getting tons of streams, they're making tons of money.
Yeah.
No, we're not. Like, the numbers are like 0.000437% from Spotify. And like, it's funny to think that Napster is the one that pays the most,
Right? the irony there is thick.
Yeah, it's so good. So yeah, no, it's a unique time, and I think that there's going to be a cool change in the next year when things open up. I just hope that venues are willing to open their doors.
Yeah,
I see this scene kind of rising like the phoenix.
Yeah, no, for sure. Is there anything you guys want to say before we wrap up?
Probably just to check out our videos, because we have a couple of awesome videos online. We have the Whittago one that I spoke about earlier, but our Anybody's Daughter video was produced and directed by Karen Lamb, a huge filmmaker. Feature film Curse of Willow song features that song, Anybody's Daughter, and then the music video has parts and elements of the movie in it as well. And they're great videos. We have 3 more videos in the works. Hopefully coming out this year before the fall. And then, we're about to release the CD, the physical CDs. So keeping an eye out for that, because they're going to be really, really nice.
And we're working on new music.
Yes.
Oh
yes.
yeah, that's the best part, right?
We are writing for the second album. The hard part is getting together, right? So it's like it's like I'm doing all the writing, but it's like it's hard to, because of COVID, we have a hard time getting together in the same room.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Ethically, you know what I mean? I mean, even if we think, oh, it'll be safe. No, it's still the ethics of it, right?
Yeah.
So we have not seen each other very much.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been a hard time for bands. That's been one of the biggest things is to determine who's going to stay as a band too, because a lot of bands have broken up over it. The distance,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, but that's that thing about why are you doing this, right? Are you doing this to play, Pub 340 on the weekend, or are you here for the long haul, right?
Exactly.
And so that's not so bad because you get to weed out the casuals. Right?
Yeah,
For sure.
no, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure that
we have a new drummer in Chris Pallett that we haven't even played a gig with him yet, right?
Right, that's like us
during COVID. It's like we want to play a show with this man because he's great. It's like this is gonna be awesome, right?
I know, I'm so excited for shows. It's definitely gonna be fun.
Yeah.
And I'll put all your guys' links and the links for the music videos underneath in the description.
Sure, thank you.
On YouTube, and we'll keep in contact with you guys.
All right.
Perfect.
All right, you guys stay safe, and thanks for coming on to the show.
Thanks a lot, Rob.
Thank you
this
so
was a lot
much.
of fun.
No worries, guys. You stay safe. Bye.
Bye.
What up, headbangers? Thanks for checking out the video. Don't forget to hit that little likey and subscribey and hit the little bell. Hit the bell.
So you can stay up to date
Yeah.
on all the shit we got going on.